So what is metabolic health? I know it has something to do with metabolism, but this is a word that is, thankfully starting to become more popular. And I don't know that I'm totally clear on it as a general term or metric of someone's health.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me here.
Great to have you back, dude.
Yeah. And it's always a pleasure to travel to Austin, visit your cool house. I mean, metabolic health and the opposite, metabolic syndrome, you'll hear it thrown out, in podcasts, read it in blogs. And basically it discusses, it's about metabolism, about your metabolism, about people's metabolism. In the same vein, insulin sensitivity, type 2 diabetes. So basically, metabolic syndrome is when your triglycerides are high, you have high blood pressure, you have some beginnings of cardiovascular issues, cholesterol, and glucose. And so, and insulin. So if you have high insulin, high glucose, you have trouble processing your glucose because high insulin typically allows the glucose to go into the muscles. And it may be actually, better to back up to your original question of metabolic health. What does normal look like? So you eat a meal and the carbohydrates turn into glucose, and that glucose stimulates insulin from your pancreas. That insulin it creates a signal to your cells and specifically cell receptors to receive glucose. The glucose enters the cell, and glucose, we all know, is needed for energy, but it's not the usable form of energy. You actually, it goes to your mitochondria, which are sort of the power centers of the cell. And then the reason we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide is because the oxygen is needed for something called the Krebs cycle. And that takes glucose, which is kind of like money in the bank. It's not the usable form of energy, and creates sort of the cash form of energy called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. And so you eat, insulin spikes, your glucose enters your cells, enters your muscles, and then it's out of your bloodstream. And then basically your cells are fed and insulin turns off. Let's say you go to sleep, you go into semi-hibernation state, you wake up, cortisol spikes, your glucose, because cortisol naturally increases glucose in a good way. You wake up and then you eat. And again, insulin turns on, the glucose is taken up into muscles that go into cells, that give you energy, and it's a natural process. Now, the issue is, what happens when glucose is always in your bloodstream and insulin is always on? There becomes a sensitivity. So things stop functioning properly. And so that insulin signal to your cells diminishes. It becomes less. So there's less, even though insulin is high, there's less of the glucose able to be taken up into your cells. And therefore your glucose levels in your blood are high. And so when that happens, it's bad. And so things called advanced glycation end products, which are basically when your glucose binds to things like proteins, it's called like a sugar rust. You're rusting from the inside, and it's kind of like reactive oxygen species. And so it ages you. And so it's bad.
Is this related to the idea that sugar is inflammatory? Is that what makes it inflammatory?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's sort of a basic framework for, insulin sensitivity, metabolic health, metabolic syndrome.
With metabolic syndrome, is obesity always a byproduct of that? Or can someone have that syndrome and not necessarily be overweight? They're hand in hand.
Okay. So going back to metabolic syndrome. So, when you cannot process your glucose, it becomes stored as fat. And so that's why people who are obese typically have type 2 diabetes, are pre-diabetic, and they have blood pressure issues, and they have cardiovascular issues, and their triglycerides are high. And so it's sort of one, goes hand in hand.
Continuum.
Yeah. And it's not a stretch to be like, okay, that person's in trouble. If you just look at them.
I'm sure you've seen these memes because they're quite popular, because I think they're shock value of people on the beach in the 1950s, 60s, 70s in all various countries and cultures. And there's not one obese person in the entire photo of dozens, if not hundreds of people. And if you took that same photo, pretty much, most places in the world now, I'm sure some countries more so than others. The thin people might even be the minority.
Yeah. Well,
let alone if you walked into a Walmart
or like a Wood Grill or one of the all-you-can-eat buffets.
Yeah. You're not going to find a lot of really thin people at the all-you-can-eat anything. But we're obviously in a crisis. It
is a crisis
when it comes to this, and it's one of those, I think, boiling the frog things where it just becomes normalized and we don't really notice. And as I was telling you earlier, I've just been pretty much the same weight my whole life. Well, actually, up until I got sober when I was 26, and I never weighed myself because I was just so emaciated. But I was 6'2" like I am now, and I was 135 pounds, which is pretty thin. And in 30 days in treatment, I gained 30 pounds, and I went up to 165, and I weighed pretty much 165 most of my life. And then a couple of years ago, I got on the raw milk tip, and I ballooned up to like 195 or something, And I think probably that had a lot to do with just age too. So how does age, seem to make it more difficult for us to, keep down to our healthy fighting weight?
Yeah. With age, a lot of things happen. So the first thing that comes to mind is metabolism in terms of mitochondria. And so your mitochondrial functions can diminish, and which is why it's important to exercise or take or take supplements that perform mitophagy, showing old mitochondria at the door, having them die and be recycled into new mitochondria. That's what fasting does. That exercise does that. You can take a supplement like berberine, which we'll talk about, that can do that.
Do you think urolithin A is as legit as it claims to be in terms of mitophagy?
I have not researched that, though I was researching our next products in a discussion with ChatGPT, and it said that we need to have our next product be urolithin A.
Oh, interesting.
Like, what? What's the market on that? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, that's something I should look into. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done, I think, at least one show on it, and seems to me that there's enough research on it, and there's other benefits to it too. But that one's interesting. What about in terms of the mitochondrial function that, as you said, is one of the determining factors of metabolic health? Deuterium depleted water. Have you geeked out on that at all?
No.
That's
Never.
another interesting one.
What's it called?
Well, deuterium depleted water, or DDW. The idea here is that I've done a number of shows on this topic because it's so interesting that
I have to watch it.
Over time, your body accumulates this heavy form of hydrogen called deuterium. It's in the air, water, food, et cetera, right? And so deuterium, for example, is much more prevalent in coastal areas than it is in high altitude inland areas. And the same goes with water. So most groundwater, seawater is like 155 parts per million. Glacier water might be, 129 or something. So over time, over eons of time, this, for some reasons unknown, this deuterium has kind of become more abundant in our environment and thus in our bodies. And when this heavy hydrogen gets into the mitochondria, it gums up the nanomotors, slowing down ATP production, basically. And so you can drink this water. You can drink it as low as 10 parts per million. And basically, it's like, I look at it like giving yourself an oil change for your metabolic water. So if you drink, anywhere from 10 parts per million, it would be more like if you had cancer or something. Most people do it around, say 65, 85 parts per million. And you basically just replace your normal drinking water, which is all about 155, with this very low deuterium water. And it displaces the older deuterium heavy metabolic water in your body. And I've tested this and it works. Like I tested my levels, and then did 3 months on the water and they were down by, 25 points or something like that. So it's really interesting, but it's one of those things that, there's some research behind it, but it's difficult to quantify. It's like you could get on that water for 3 months, go, how do you feel, David? And you're like, I don't know. It's not like it gives you energy immediately like coffee or something, right? But it's one of the most compelling things I found in terms of metabolic health.
Yeah. And I think also, it's really interesting. I'll have to look at one of your older podcasts on that. But I mean, when you age, you also have sarcopenia, the loss of muscle. And that's, when you lose muscle, you lose, your glucose sinks, where your glucose goes into the cells. You have less cells to absorb the glucose, less mitochondria to burn it into ATP, less energy. And so that's where the GLP-1s, which we can eventually dive into.
It's on my list, trust me. Speaking of like memes, oh my God, I'm seeing such crazy stuff about these drugs, but I don't want to go into that.
No, I know.
Quite yet.
Yeah. So basically, age, you drop your muscle, you drop cells that can absorb glucose. Therefore, it's an issue because if you have glucose for the same reason I mentioned before, if you have glucose in your blood, it can get stored into your fat. And once the glucose turns into glycogen, which is good, which we want, which is short-term energy stores for like sprinting but once those stores are filled in your muscle around your organs, then it turns into fat. And so when there are fat stores around your organs, the organ function diminishes, and all these things happen with age.
I never thought about the relationship between maintaining or building muscle and mitochondrial health. That's so funny. It's so obvious. Like never occurred to me because, as we were talking earlier, I'm not really big on working out. I'm just not that guy. I do it like bare minimum, but that's a really good motivation actually,
Yes.
In terms of aging and mitochondrial health. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So a little hack, which not related to my products, but H&B, hydroxymethylbutyrate. Basically, there's a study on 70 somethings. I think it's been a while now, but about it's a absurdly large amount of butyrate. It's like 8 or 9 grams, like 5,000 IUs. We take more than the study, but of D3 with MK7, K2. Actually, these 70 somethings muscle.
Really?
Just that, no exercise.
Really?
Yeah.
Would that be the same as like a calcium or sodium butyrate?
No.
Oh, okay.
It would not be.
Okay, got it.
Not to say those wouldn't have benefits, but they're...
Because I take those and it hasn't helped me build muscle. But I'm not taking 5 grams of that. And if it's not the right form of butyrate to which you refer, then,
Yeah. So anyway, that's the little hack. But I mean, I'm trying desperately to build muscle. And, because as we talked about, it's the longer you wait, as you age, the harder it gets. And so it's kind of I don't want to say do or die, but it's like, okay, now's the time.
Why is it so much harder to maintain muscle mass as you get older?
It's a good question.
I mean, it's hard to build, but even if you put in some time, and you do build a little muscle, I've noticed, as I age, it just disappears if I don't like really keep it up.
It could be testosterone. It could be, with our diminishing testosterone as we age. There's just a lot of factors. Even like naturally produced, we naturally produce butyrate, right? And so gut microbiome shifts. You have the microbiome of young kids, and that shifts the microbiome of older kids or older kids, like older adults. It's different, and the butyrate levels are different. But I don't feel like that's a good, that's not a full answer. So I'll have to.
We all have our areas of expertise. We're about to get into many of yours, but anytime someone sits in that seat, I just think of like any possible question that I've wondered. Because if I've wondered things, chances are some people in the audience have too.
Yes.
Okay, so going back to the epidemic of metabolic syndrome and related obesity, something that's been really interesting to me just culturally over the past few years has been this idea of, body positivity and fat shaming and these kind of things where there's, I don't know, it seems almost as, I'm quite the conspiracy theorist, so I don't know how much of this is true, but there seems to be almost, I don't know, a push, an institutional propagandized push to normalize obesity when obesity is just not healthy. Now, I can see the kind of compassionate intention maybe behind that, right? No one should be made fun of or, criticized or put down or judged or anything like that because of the way their body looks. I mean, hopefully people listening to this show will know I'm more evolved than that. And I'm sure people listening are as well, right? I mean, you don't judge someone by some external thing that's not even who they are anyway. So I'm all for people doing whatever they feel good with their body, even if that's being morbidly obese. But I think for me, the difficulty is that there's a fine line between saying, hey, you love yourself for who you are and we'll love you for who you are no matter what you look like. There's a difference between that and saying, well, that's totally normal and healthy, right? It's like telling an alcoholic, like, oh, alcoholism's great, keep drinking, versus going, that's really bad for you. But if that's where you are right now, we're not going to judge you. We understand everyone, has their own journey. What's your take on that as someone who's, now starting to get some expertise and share information around obesity and so on?
So that's a great question. Basically, we all know that just from the reasons I've already mentioned, that being obese is absolutely bad for you. Now, people can choose that and not care about their health, but saying obesity is okay is wrong from a health standpoint. There are reasons why people are obese that are beyond, some people are beyond just laziness and lethargy and sloth. And so I'd say those people fit into their own category. But there's a lot of, you just mentioned you don't like to work out. If you multiply that, but I also like to eat a lot of Doritos and sit in front of the TV and drink 2 liters of Coke a day, then that adds up. And so it doesn't make sense to say something's good that's not good, but it's also okay to be understanding, like, okay, you're in that situation. And that's where, like, one of my business partners, Martin Katz, this is part of why we came up with this GLPerfect is he's not a weight loss clinic. He's a primary care doc. He's a family doc. But the amount of people who come in with metabolic disorder who really want help but can't get it, it's like, where do you begin? Right. And so for those people out there who are listening, who may be in that situation, where do you begin? I'd say, and he would say, start walking, get a wearable, like a Fitbit or Oura Ring. We were talking about the Whoop, something where you can measure your heart rate and yours. And so if you just can exercise, you don't have to pump iron. Just go for a walk, get your heart rate up to zone 2. So 180 minus your age. That will start, if you do that, start with 15 minutes and build to 30 and then build to 45 and then walk for an hour. And you will see a difference. That 180 minus your age, zone 2, that basically is where you burn fat. And it's not that. In fact, for me, I'm a swimmer. I have to go really, really, really try to go slow to be in zone 2 because I'm zone 5, all out, all the time,
Wow.
So anyway, I would say that's a great starting place. And then look at your diet. The whole industrial food complex. They want you to eat fats and they want you to eat sugars. Those give you that dopamine release and they feel good, right? But they're diminishing returns.
That's why ice cream is the best food on earth.
Especially late at night when your melatonin is shut down, you 100%. Can't produce insulin, and
that's my poison, man. That's how I keep it real. I don't want to try to be too perfect. So in the cultural context then, and I appreciate you being measured in your answer, but something came to mind for me.
I don't feel like I was that measured.
No, you were pretty tame. I get to be the kook, I'll take the hits if there are any, you're representing a company. I'm just representing myself so people can take it or leave it. But I think that there's a balance of that compassion, right? Because I've had things, in my past I've talked about a lot, addiction being the main one that I'm sure I was judged for, and there was, at that time when I was trapped in that, there was nothing I could do about it. It was totally beyond my control because of underlying issues of trauma and things like that. And my maternal grandmother, I mean, you can't diagnose an addict. It has to be done by the person afflicted, but I would say she was a food addict, and she used, food to medicate unresolved emotions and things like that, and was morbidly obese my entire life. And then eventually got dementia. So, I definitely have compassion for the plight of someone who uses food in that way. But it's not compassionate to tell them, "Oh, you're beautiful the way you are," and that it's normal and fine to be that overweight, because there's going to be a lot of suffering down the road for that person. So I think that's why, I raised that question. And also, I believe in live and let live. If you do what you want to do, if you're not hurting anyone else, go nuts. That's my motto.
Yeah, and there can be a level of beauty in, but what I think what we're both saying is it's not loving to say you're fine when you're not fine health wise, right? I mean, I think that's what perhaps your question is getting at. And the loving thing to do is say, hey, there's some steps, there are some easy steps you can take. The other thing I was going to say, we was going with the high sugar, high fat, like eat vegetables. Like, holy smokes. Like, just, if you fill up on veggies, like not with like lots of oils, or just eat vegetables, and like they'll fill you up and they're good for you. You get your micronutrients. Eat organic, grass-fed, grass-finished meats like beef. Those will provide a level of satiation so you're not hungry. And, for the love that is all that is good, do not drink sugary beverages. That's, if you can just get away from those. My sort of non-water of choice, I throw some electrolytes in water. It's tasty, like the LMNT. I don't know if you use those.
I have, yeah.
I think they're great. So anyway, those are some suggestions, but I'd say walk for 15 minutes, get a heart rate monitor, get your heart rate up, and then sort of build.
Over the years, I've noticed sugar be demonized by the big food, and then I've noticed fat be demonized. So there was a period where everything was low fat or no fat, and then no sugar, et cetera. And then they'd use aspartame in place of the sugar and seed oils in place of the fat. And a lot of it, I think, was just marketing, right? It's cheaper to sell fat from the rapeseed oil than it is fat from, grass-fed, pasture-raised, regenerative tallow. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah,
or coconut oil. But
there's quite a bit of tallow out there not being used.
Totally. Yeah. Thankfully, there are some companies getting hip to that. You probably noticed everyone's selling some kind of energy magic these days, and the effects are notoriously hard to quantify. So how do you separate the science from the scams? Well, hold up, because I'm about to explain it to you. When I first heard about focused life force energy over 8 years ago, I'll admit I was hella skeptical, but I was open-minded and curious enough to try it out. When I activated the service within hours, I did feel a subtle but unmistakable shift in my energy. Basically, I just felt more centered, and my meditation and sleep went deeper too. Then shortly after that, I started noticing the effects on other people in my home. And a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that FLFE transforms harmful man-made EMFs into life-supporting energy, which is why I first started researching and using it. And I know those effects weren't just placebo, because the research backs it up. My boys Jeff and Clayton over at FLFE follow gold standard research protocols, including double-blind studies showing real improvements in sleep, stress, focus, and other EMF-related symptoms. If you're curious but still on the fence, go back and listen to episode 616. We get into all the latest FLFE features and upgrades on that episode. And if you're still not convinced, it's super easy to try it out for free. Go to lukestorey.com/FLFE and get 15 days free, no credit card required. Try it out. If you don't like it, peace out. That simple. But I'm going to tell you what, I've tested endless EMF hacks, and FLFE is one I never give up. It's a quiet force that keeps my space balanced, safe, and deeply nourishing. So start your 15-day trial right now at lukestorey.com/FLFE. What's your take on, do saturated fats, and I'm talking about the healthy ones, coconut oil, ghee, etc., Do they actually make you fat, or is that propaganda? And does sugar in a healthy form, I don't know, coconut water or something like that, make you fat? I mean, do healthy sugars and fats also make you as fat as the toxic, substitutes?
So yes, they do make you fat.
Damn it.
No, not as much as the unhealthy substitutes. And the reason for that is what's going on. Like with a seed oil, high omega-6 fatty acids, it's rancid probably. And so it has a lot of oxidation. And so, your antioxidant response system needs to be revved up to deal with that. Or you get building of plaques, right? In your cardiovascular system. And so, it's will that happen with tallow? No, not in the same way, unless it's rancid as well. But I think a lot of the movement for replacing seed oils with natural oils, I wish it were more prevalent. Our friend and I ate at the Well and no seed oils. I'm like, because every time I eat at a restaurant, there's this low level of anxiety I have. Like what is in the food?
I know.
Like, what are they hiding?
I'm even more psycho. I'm like, what's their cookware like? Are they using Teflon? I mean, and are they using tap water to make that broth or the soup or whatever? I mean, it's crazy. I used to think about this when you go get a bowl of rice somewhere, right? It's like, there's so much water in it. And I used to eat, a lot of, Korean food, Japanese food, and so on in LA. And then I realized like, oh shit, they just have a big pot in the kitchen with LA tap water. They're just, the bowl of rice is just soaking up all that tap water. I mean, you can get really kind of orthorexic and neurotic about it, but it's also a balance of awareness, right? There's a reason why you often feel like crap after you eat at a restaurant. You know what I mean?
The seed oils. It's yeah. Oh yeah, Mexican for me. Like we would eat at this local Mexican place. Like we could walk in. It's just like finally, I'm like, I've never left here feeling good. Like I'm like, forget this, So anyway, yeah, I think coconut oil is saturated, but it's good for you. It's hard, I use Nutivas. I use Cassandrino's olive oil. I know them. So One Source
olive oil that actually has olive oil in it.
It's a huge issue.
I know.
We're in a group together. And we're sitting down there explaining how the olive oil is a commodity, and most of it's cut with other oils, and it's old, so it's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, you can really tell the difference if you get some organic, cold pressed, like legit olive oil in dark glass. It's a different experience than if you go down to the local grocery store and just get the cheapest regular olive oil. I mean, you can tell.
I'd say buying their olive oil it seems a little cheesy, but it's been life-changing for me. I'm like, oh.
What's the name of it?
It's called Cassandrinos.
Cassandrinos. All right. We're going to put that in the show notes at lukestorey.com/Mara2, MARA. So anything we talk about will be clickable there, you guys. What about the impact of toxicity on obesity and metabolic syndrome? I mean, obviously, most of us are becoming aware and pertinent to this conversation about eating in restaurants. I mean, it's just unavoidable. At a certain point, you just kind of got to live and eat as clean as you can and just accept that there's certain things that are going to be stuck in your body for a while, if not forever. But if we become really burdened by toxins, how much does that contribute to, weight gain and so on?
I will say this isn't exactly your question, because I'm sure there's a connection, but I will say most toxins are stored in fat, or toxins are stored in fat. And so as you balloon, as you become have fat stores, you need to be careful when those fat stores come off, because you will be releasing toxins. Absolutely. And so unashamedly, I'll plug broccoli with the sulforaphane in our product. Basically is the best natural detoxifier, because it is the best for phase 2, but it works in all 3 phases. And so phase 1 being, it makes the toxin less toxic. Phase 2, it makes it water soluble, so it goes in the serum. Phase 3, binding and excreting. And so if you can get one that does all 3, then you're in business. Now, most have these doctors with their get Dr. Adams' detox protocol. I just made that up, but like, excuse me if that's real. But, they have like 50 things and it's like $150, and you're like most and
or 550.
500, and they can charge whatever they want, right? And you really don't know if they have 300 ingredients in them, and it's none of them. I mean, so it's basically maybe it works. Most likely it works in phase 1. But phase 1, basically, you want to, when the toxin is released, you want to, slow down the process. And a lot of these, the whole detox flu, when you're detoxing, is you have all these toxins in your system and you're trying to process them. And so what sulforaphane does is it slows down that process. So you have less and less toxins in your system. So, but your phase 2 is ramped up. And so it kind of creates a pipeline versus like a bulge at one side.
It's not like knocking down the dam and getting flooded with,
exactly.
with toxins.
Yeah.
Another great thing about Broccoli, your product, which I love, I've been on, I don't know, when were we here last? Like a year ago? 2 years ago? So I've been on it that long.
Yeah.
Is I hate eating vegetables. When you were talking about vegetables, I was like, oh God, I can't do it. Salads, like there's a few things, carrots, but broccoli, oh hell no, I've never liked broccoli. So when you showed up a couple years ago with your broccoli product, I was like, sick. This is like eating 10 pounds of broccoli without having to do it and getting the benefits of it. So well played.
I will have to cook for you sometimes.
You can make broccoli taste good?
I can make vegetables that you will not only just tolerate, but enjoy.
Really? Wow. You'd be the first.
Okay. I will put it out there.
Yeah. It's a constant joke between Alice and I, because she'll make me dinner and it's like, I just pick the vegetables out and throw them away. It's like, where's the meat? Give me the meat. Throw the rest of that stuff away.
It was an issue because like with Mara's, I cooked for Mara and we ate healthy for the first 3 years of her cancer journey. She got to a place where it wasn't tasty. It was healthy, but not tasty. She's like, she came to me. We had sort of this mini family meeting. She's like, I love you, David, but I would rather die than keep eating this way. I'm like, oh, well, that's pretty clear.
Yeah. No compliments to the chef there.
And so I kind of took it on myself that it has to be healthy. It has to be tasty and easy because we had 2 babies and 2 little kids. And so I couldn't spend all the time in the kitchen in the world. So healthy, tasty, eating, that's most of our recipes on my blog. It has to be those 3.
Cool. Well, congratulations. You might be the first one to have done it. Last thing before we go into, actually, there's a couple things I want to cover. And then I really want to focus on the GLP-1 issue because it's just becoming so prevalent. It's really important that people, I think, understand that. Hey, check it out. Do you want to hit that flow state on demand without smoking your adrenals? Well, listen up. As an entrepreneur and now author, I love getting into new projects. But I've noticed how motivation starts to fade when I've been grinding on something for a while. And lately, I've been deep in the process of writing my first book, and let me tell you, that initial spark of creative thinking does not always last, especially in the afternoon. So that's why I started looking out for something that could reignite my drive without giving me anxiety like stimulating nootropics tend to do. Well, a couple months ago, thank God, I got turned on to something called Correct Energy. And as someone who has a very hard time getting excited about a new supplement, I was legit floored on day one, no joke. Because Correct Energy was designed to hit the dopamine system directly, and that's the one responsible for your clarity, mood, and drive. Now, most energy products jack you up with cheap caffeine and other stimulants, but Correct uses something called paraxanthine, a rare caffeine metabolite that gives you all the upsides of coffee without the tweaking out or sleep disruption. Then they stack it with Zynomite and an extra, 2 clinically studied plant extracts that amplify those effects by working synergistically on the same neurotransmitter pathways. This stuff is next level. Actually, it's a couple levels above next level. So if you want to light up your brain and your energy, here's what you do. Go to correctlife.com/Luke and use the code Luke to get 15% off. And heads up, that's correct with a K. Because if you guys want to aim high, you need a fuel that rises to the occasion. Again, that's correctlife.com/Luke And don't forget to use that code Luke and save yourself some cash. It is legit. Have you looked into the effects of blue light and EMF on obesity? I've seen some stuff about, especially with blue light, like shift workers and things like that are wrecking their circadian rhythm and thus circadian biology from being under that blue light and these high EMF environments and insulin sensitivity. I don't know exactly what the correlation there, but I've heard some things in the periphery.
All right. So let me see if I can do this justice. So basically, going back to, when you wake up, cortisol spikes, you get glucose, you wake up. At night, you have melatonin that arrests your insulin production. And so you don't want to have a sugary meal. That's why you don't want to have a sugary meal late at night. And so when you sleep, you're in somewhat of it's kind of like a mini hibernation. And so what that does is, and especially with deep sleep, that allows your body to process toxins in your brain. And it allows sort of the flow, the lymphatics. And so, people who are always exposed to blue light, if your circadian rhythms are screwed up, that screws up brain function. One of the centers of weight and brain function is the hypothalamus. And so that's where leptin functioning. So leptin being the hormone where you feel satiation and you don't want to eat. You don't want to store fat. You want to burn fat. And so if that's messed up, all of a sudden, and that can be inflamed, like with your brain not, your brain toxins not flowing, that can mess up the situation. Similarly, ghrelin comes from your brain, which is the hunger hormone where you feel hungry, and it's natural. You want, like, if I'm talking about eating, we were just talking about eating, right? And rice and lunch and Austin and I eating at the well, and
I think it hit me when you said grass-fed beef.
That just yes. If we talk about it,
I'm getting hungry.
That if you talk about it, it automatically
that's ghrelin.
It doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm hungry, but there is a level that it increases just thinking about it. Yeah. And so that's ghrelin. And so that whole system of hunger, non-hunger gets messed up. I'll just that's the Cliff's Notes version.
Great.
Easy.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely something to that. And because, again, back to the shift workers, I mean, they're one of the sickest cohorts of people. I'm thinking of people that work in hospitals all night and sleep all day, that kind of thing. I mean, they're just getting hammered.
Well, their melatonin's screwed up. And so melatonin is people who use it for sleep are taking too much because it's like nanograms, micrograms, that your body produces. But there is, like, the mega dosing, there is a like, especially with cancer and stuff like that, there's a place for it. It's an amazing hormone and does so much. And so if that itself, if that was the only thing, it would, that was screwed up by working late, then that would be enough to mess you up. And so if you are a night nurse or like Maura was a night nurse, and there's a huge number of night nurses, women who get breast cancer. And so, be sure to work with a functional doc about what levels of melatonin you should be on, because you should be on
for
it.
Sure. And get yourself some Gilded by Luke Storey blue blockers.
Yeah.
Man, I made my own blue blockers just because at the time there were the ones that were out were just really embarrassing to wear. They're just like, you look like a welder or something, or like a 90s like grunge rocker or something. Anyway, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny though, on a good day, maybe. What's interesting about, becoming blue light aware, as I have been for many years now, is you really start to, it's kind of like when you don't use toxic cleaners and personal care products in your house, like smelly stuff, like Glade air fresheners and whatever, right? You become so sensitive to it. And I've found that that's true with blue light too, because it's like non-negotiable. ever go anywhere without wearing blue blockers at night. I mean, very rarely. Well, I don't go out a lot at night anyway, but if I ever do, or, driving home at night or something, I'll wear my amber glasses, and the whole house is outfitted with, at the very least, incandescent bulbs, And man, if I go to an Airbnb or hotel or something, it's just like, I feel like it's a cop pulling me over with their spotlight, like in my face. It's like you become so sensitive to it. And it's like, no, this is actually how sensitive, an indigenous hunter gatherer would have been if you shined a freaking headlight into their face. It's like, we're that sensitive naturally. I think we just get desensitized from living under, LED bulbs our entire life.
I had a mini split AC in my room last night at the Airbnb, and I mean, it has and I'm like,
dude,
this dog ain't gonna hunt.
Yeah,
like I'm like, we have to. So I got, it's all the way up in the wall, so I had to get a chair, put a towel over it.
Dozens of times, my friend. I actually travel with like black gaffer's tape now. Just because it's like there's so many of these indicator lights on in hotels and Airbnbs. You turn the lights out, especially if you're lucky enough to have blackout curtains, right? And there's no ambient light. You're just like, what the hell? Our whole house is like little pieces of red and black tape over anything that's plugged in, because it's so freaking annoying. Once you get used to not living with it, when it appears, it's just like incredibly disruptive.
But I will say, I have a red light, a lume. So I turned off all the lights early. Turn that on for light to do stuff.
Yeah.
Had my blue blockers on, and with my boys, it's really hard to function that way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very privileged in the sense that I don't have kids yet. I would like to, I want to really bad, but they're not around. But yeah, I mean, I tell this stuff to my friends who have parents, and they're like, yeah, try that with an 8-year-old. You know what I mean?
But yeah, I will say I slept the best I've slept in months last night.
Wow.
Even with all these other random blue things that I tried to block, but just with the blue blockers, I was like, all right. It was great.
It makes a huge difference. All right, let's get into GLP-1. So what is GLP-1 first? Let's lay that out. And then I want to get into some of the peptides and pharmaceutical versions of that, because that's really the main thing I wanted to grill you about today.
Sure. So yeah, that's a great question. So what are GLP-1s? So the most prevalent one out there, it's a pharmaceutical called Ozempic. We've all seen the commercials on TV, maybe on the internet. And so there are others out there as well. But what preceded the pharmaceutical was the peptide semaglutide, which is in Ozempic, but they created it with some other things to have a patent on it. In fact, the pharmaceutical industry tried to take the semaglutide from sort of the natural health peptide industry, and they fought back and were able to block that, as well as some other peptides. But what does it do? How does it work to help people lose weight? And so the first thing, and again, going back to what we talked about at the beginning, when your insulin is high, it tells your body, it signals to your cells to receive glucose. And so the semaglutide, the Ozempic, helps increase insulin. Which helps process the glucose, put it into your cells. And so that's the first thing it does. And the second thing is it slows gut motility. And so, which can basically, there's a low level of constipation in everybody who's taking the GLP-1s. So when your gut motility slows, you're less and less hungry.
That's kind of a double-edged sword, because constipation to me is like one of the worst things you could ever do to yourself, especially in the toxicity we're living in.
Bingo. So what that means is that the food that is in your gut stays there longer, which allows the toxins in the food to get into your system that much longer. And so again, that's an aside. Let's go back to how it works. So basically, increased insulin, slowing of the gut motility. For many people, including a friend of mine, increased stomach acid. And so that can help break down food. But really, it's depending on the amount you're taking, it can be a problem. And so this friend basically had to carry around some sodium bicarb to kind of neutralize the acid.
They were getting heartburn?
Oh yeah, all the time. Like,
oh, burn.
and
No
so
pun intended. I used to
burn.
have that. It's terrible.
Yeah. And so, that makes, so basically there's, I mean, this is a side effect. It's not like sort of, hey, we're going for this so you lose weight, but nausea. So you just don't feel like eating, because you're full, but also because you're a little bit nauseous, because if you eat, your stomach acid gets revved up and it's just like, oh, I feel bad. And so that's sort of the experience of the GLP-1, and it works really well. People lose weight on GLP-1s. And now what is that weight? Is it body fat? Some of it, but up to 40% can be muscle, and which you don't want to lose when you're aging. The statistic is 25 to 40%. It's 25 if you actually have a high protein intake and are doing resistance training. It's 40% if you're just not doing anything.
That's nuts. Do you think that's true of the pure peptide, the semaglutide version too? Or are some of the negative effects exclusive to the pharmaceutical version where they've monkeyed around with it so they could patent it?
I'd say it's about the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Because when I first heard about this, to me, it was just another peptide, right? Semaglutide. I'm like, oh, cool. Yeah, I've been taking peptides for years. I had no idea that it was related to something, in the pharmaceutical realm. Not that I'm, always opposed to using pharmaceuticals. They have their place at times, but, they're always something that's kind of a last resort for me. But I wonder how many other people out there that are fans of peptides were taking or are taking semaglutide, not knowing that they're basically taking Ozempic.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do one, that would be the one, because it's less adulterated. But if you do have, okay, I mean, I don't want to poo-poo. I think there are places and people who could benefit from GLP-1s. I think what we're witnessing in today's society is, everybody wanting them and doctors pushing them. Like I was a friend of mine's, this no joke, dentist is in a state where the dentist could prescribe. It's like, you want to be on a GLP-1? It's just like, what? Why would you what? That's like,
yeah, fat gums.
Yes, fat gums, fat teeth. Anyway, I think there's definitely an overuse of the pharmaceutical currently, and it's part of it's because people want to be on it, and you have actresses and actors on it, and it's an issue because there's Ozempic face, which is people's sunken, their face is sunken, and so that can be an issue. The issue is when you're losing weight so quickly, that's not healthy. And so you want to, about half a pound a week is healthy, I would say. That would be at the upper limit. And with this stuff, I mean, a pound a week, we've had some testimonials with our stuff that, that's the kind of I'd say that can be healthy. It just depends on how you're doing it. But I mean, it's more with these GLP-1s, it's much more than that. And so we talked at the beginning with, low insulin means longevity and health. We talked at the beginning, low insulin levels mean, low glucose. Those two combined, longevity and health. High insulin, high glucose can lead to impairment and early aging. And so having your insulin on with this GLP-1 isn't necessarily the healthiest thing.
I mean, that 25 to 40% muscle loss to me it's
the opposite direction because
that's
again,
alarming.
Yeah.
You don't want that, especially if you're older,
especially if you're older. And so it's the opposite, right? Because you want to be building muscle so that you have a place for the glucose to go. Like we talked about. So your metabolism is healthy. It's higher. And so there's a place for it for some people. I'd say most people, it's overused. And the last issue and the last part with these GLP-1s is they're expensive. So it's about $1,000 a month.
Damn.
without insurance. With insurance, it can be less, and we're seeing a rise in, with the economy and issues with employment. If people lose their insurance, they have to come off, because they're not going to pay $1,000 a month. And so, what do they do then?
Probably gain the weight right back.
Yes, or that's why we came up with sort of the GLPerfect. And so having a natural alternative, which we can get to it again later.
Cool. Well, that later can be right now. We've got a bottle of it right here. GLPerfect. I see what you did there. GLP.
Yeah.
And I haven't taken it yet because I'll ask you about it, but I already barely eat. Like, I just have no appetite. Probably to like a point that's not that healthy. But I know someone living in this house that's excited to try it.
Awesome.
Who has much more of an appetite.
Yeah.
So obviously there's a market need. It's really smart that you went, hey, there's another way to do this where we don't have the side effects and it's going to be more of a gentle, gradual thing. Well, they say age comes with wisdom, and I'm hoping that's true. But unfortunately, it also comes with wrinkles. So I'm going to let you in on a secret that's been soothing out my complexion and keeping my skin firm and toned. It's the red light face mask from Bond Charge. You might know Bond Charge as a holistic wellness brand with a huge range of science-based products to optimize your life. I'm a big fan and have been for quite a while. Their red light face mask emits both near-infrared and red light, helping to boost the production of elastin and collagen in your skin. Treatment time's about 20 minutes a day, and because it doesn't obstruct your eyes, it doesn't even have to interrupt your flow. I just strap mine on, set a timer, and go about my day. Another great feature is that it's cordless and rechargeable. Plus, it puts out literally 0 EMF, which is super important, especially on a sensitive area like your face. So to get your red light face mask, here's what you do. Go to bondcharge.com/lifestylist and use the code lifestylist to get 15% off. Oh, and unlike other brands, Bond Charge very intelligently removed the blue and green light so you can be sure the mask won't disrupt your circadian rhythm or your sleep if you use it at night. Again, that's BONCHARGE, bondcharge.com/lifestylist, and that code again is also lifestylist. Run me through the process of I see the impetus for it or the inspiration for it, but how did you start to put together the formula? And then you can tell me kind of how it works.
First of all, going back, my business partner, Martin Katz, primary care doc, had a lot of people coming into his clinic. Hey, doc, put me on GLP-1s. He's like, no. And also people coming in with metabolic syndrome who need help. And so coming up with an option that is healthy, that it doesn't check the boxes of the GLP-1s necessarily in all the same ways, but yet is effective. And so there's 3 ingredients. One is berberine. One is alpha lipoic acid, and the third is EGCG, which is the phytochemical from green tea extract. And so where do you want to start?
Well, I guess you could break down the 3 ingredients.
Yeah.
Because each of those on their own is pretty useful in different cases. So maybe just explain how each of those work.
Yeah. And so berberine, I'll start there. We have a berberine product already, and that's bioavailable. So the issue with berberine is it's an ancient molecule. I think there are documents from ancient China 3,000 years ago where it's been used. So it's been around for a while. And so the issue, though, is with bioavailability. And we talked about this a little bit in our last time together, but the issue is it's about 0.6% bioavailable. So if you take 1,000 grams, about 1,000 milligrams, about 6 milligrams gets through your gut barrier. So that's not really enough to make a biological difference. And so what we do is we have this organic carrier molecule that I like to use the analogy. It's like smuggling. smuggles the berberine through your gut barrier. So
It's
Mara,
a nutrient mule.
it's a nutrient mule. It's like, so Mara was a Bible smuggler into China. So she didn't she didn't have it in her backpack or her hand, walking through the immigration into China. She had it hidden, right? And so so it can get through the border, and so it can be given to the people that want it. So that smuggling is analogy, metaphor is one that I like, in that the berberine is kind of attached and hidden in this carrier molecule, and it gets through the gut barrier in a pretty sizable amount. And so what does that do physiologically? Berberine, basically, it's great for sleep. I early on in having a berberine product, looking for testimonials, like what are people experiencing? And so we actually launched berberine specifically to get people into ketosis and to manage their blood sugar. And so the whole ketogenic diet, anti-cancer, high glucose being pro-cancer, low glucose being anti-cancer, and again, aging as well. We wanted something that could help get people into ketosis quickly. And so with our Berbolete product, we did a study. You basically eat dinner, you don't eat overnight, skip breakfast, and you take 2 of our berberine product called Berbolete, and you'll be in ketosis by noon. So about 5 hours later, take it at 7.
I wonder if this is one of the reasons that I am never hungry during the day, because I take your stuff in the morning.
You take Berbolete?
Yeah. Among, a few other things in rotation. But yeah, like this morning I took, I think, 2 of each of 3 of these bottles that are sitting here. But I'm always wondering, why whenever I'm around other people, everyone is always way more obsessed with food than I am. Like, I just don't care. I'm not interested, which makes it's kind of socially awkward, to be honest, because it's what everyone wants to eat all the time. It's just kind of irritating. But I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Yeah, and so most likely. And so maybe half your dose and see what happens.
Just force down some sausage before I take it or something.
Yeah. And so when I sent out this email to the people who are using Berbolete, 75% of them came back and had testimonials about how it helped their sleep, which is super surprising to me, because I had, again, wanted it as a blood glucose and ketosis aid. Getting into ketosis quickly can be really important and helpful. And so I'm like, so I go to PubMed, not like, what is up with this? And find a article that has become one of my favorite articles. And it's basically how berberine outperforms Valium as a sleep aid.
What?
Yeah. And so basically the mechanism is an increase in serotonin by 30%. And this is from the gut, because the berberine in the studies are not bioavailable, and then increase in dopamine by 25%. And so those together help with the sleep function.
That's interesting, because I've noticed a slight nootropic effect from the Berbolete, and I thought I was just imagining that. But that would make sense.
Yes.
Huh.
So it's helpful for sleep, and then it's helpful for weight. And how is it helpful for weight? Well, so the Berbolete that's on the that we sell actually has a different mechanism. The berberine and GLPerfect, we attach it to our carrier molecule, and that's how it's bioavailable. And so with that, it's actually highly bioavailable, even more than Berbolete. So much so that you have to be careful.
Really?
Yeah. And so as an aside, I took my blood glucose is typically under 100. One day I measured it was 115, and I'm like, whoa, what the heck? So I took 3, and then 2 hours later I measured it, and it was 70, which is a huge, huge jump in that time. And so, unless you're keto adapted, that can, 70 can be a little bit low. If it gets lower, people can be in trouble. And so John, our research scientist, who is sort of the brains of the operation, he took it. His blood glucose was 95. He took 2. 30 minutes later, he measured it and it was 82. And so that's also, it's not quite the dramatic, but for the time, that's a sizable jump. And both of us, I was at my desk sitting and he was at his desk sitting. So it wasn't like we were walking around burning. And so that whole idea of basically dropping blood glucose, if you're eating a meal, you can take it with the meal and it mitigates the sugar spike, which actually, as we know, it can be not healthy. If you want to keep your blood glucose levels pretty level, it can be small humps, but not like a.
Do you think it could be used as a hack before eating a bunch of sugar?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. And people
I love me some sugar sometimes.
Yeah. No. And people do that from the standpoint of, there's people I know, or I guess you're now added among them. David, I want to eat a pizza. Can I eat a pizza and take some Burbly and not have the? I'm like, sure. I like pizza like the next guy. But the issue is the sugar spike, and you want to at all costs mitigate that. And so, well, not at all costs, but it's not healthy. And so berberine does that.
I want to back up for one sec. When you're talking about the delivery molecule, this smuggler, is this different than, say, a liposomal?
Oh, it is different. It's much more effective. And so liposomal, like Mariva with curcumin, Mariva is about 3 times more bioavailable than regular curcumin. With ours, so our curculate actually uses the carrier molecule. With ours, it's much higher. And we haven't done a study in berberine because berberine is insidiously hard to measure in blood plasma, but we have with green tea, so the EGCG, and we did that this past fall. It's part of the reason it's part of the formula is that the EGCG bound to our carrier molecule is 250 times more bioavailable than regular green tea extract.
Damn.
Yeah. And so it's like, so it's plausible to say, curcumin, berberine are around, are higher as well, or high bioavailability. And so what else is going on with berberine? Well, probably with weight, and metabolism, one of the biggest things going on is the induction of AMP kinase. AMP kinase is the master metabolic switch. And so what happens when AMP kinase is turned on is basically it's sort of the opposite of metabolic syndrome. So you have less fat production. You have more glucose being burned. You have lower triglycerides. Your glucose is going into the cell, and then your mitochondria is functioning properly to create ATP from glucose. And so all those combined are really important for metabolism. And so the fact that berberine increases AMP kinase, it's a huge, it increases your metabolism. And that's huge for weight.
Wow, badass. This smuggler molecule too probably explains why you don't have to take like 15 of your capsules. I noticed for all of them, it's like 2 capsules and they're relatively small.
Yes.
And I've always wondered, is this really doing anything? It doesn't seem like a lot of material, just raw material.
First of all, we don't have any filler in them.
Which I appreciate. Thank you for not having a bunch of bullshit excipients in your products. It's so annoying to me when I find something that looks cool and then I look at the ingredient deck and it's like, I don't even know what this stuff is. Like, that's why the capsules are so huge, because they're putting all this other random shit in it.
And it's to get them in the capsules, so a lot of things don't flow. And so flow into capsules. And so they have to, it's not just to rip people off, it's to try to make it, in most cases,
faster production.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so we just have a different way of putting it into the capsules. We just stuff it in. It's slightly slower, but we can do that because we're smaller, and I kind of liken us to a handcrafted microbrewery where we have our hands on every part of the production.
You're not Coors?
No.
To that end, you just reminded me of something that I always like to just kind of, I don't know, like whistleblow on some things within the supplement industry that I find problematic. One of them being that issue, right? And some of the excipients are probably relatively inert and not a big deal, but some of them are not so great for you. But the other thing is a lot of brands I notice, I mean, not really ones that I have on the podcast, but just things I see as I'm doing my research out there as new products emerge and things like that. I try to keep my finger on the pulse. And that is someone will use an ingredient studies proving the efficacy of that particular compound, but the studies are based on a totally different dose, like a much higher dose, and not even taking into account the bioavailability, which you just discussed. What do you think about that? What do you see as someone in the manufacturing side of it?
Oh, it's a marketing ploy.
I mean, because I can make a product and be like, resveratrol is great for you. It's in my product, but it's like here's the study. But in the study, they were using, therapeutic doses, and the dose that I'm selling you is not therapeutic.
I don't want to label everybody as insidious and like just wanting to make money. I think some people are ignorant in that and just don't know because not everybody has a science background. And some people think, they don't realize there's a threshold amount. They think, if 5 milligrams gives a 5x response, 1 milligram will still give a response. Well, maybe, probably not. In most cases, no. There is a threshold where you get, it's like a light switch. If you turn the light to 25% on, it's not on, right? You have to turn it all the way up. So it's binary. It's either on or off. And when it's on, that doesn't mean you can't put it on more. But there is, so I think people have to be careful. They have to do their research. I don't think you can trust every supplement company. And there's a lot of noise. There's a lot, like with our broccoli product, sulforaphane, we have the only naturally derived stabilized sulforaphane product on the market. You go to Amazon, everybody has stabilized sulforaphane. And they have crap loads of it, and it's much cheaper than ours. Why is that? Well, if you go look on the back of the label, it's sulforaphane glucosinolate, which is not sulforaphane. It's the precursor molecule. So they lead with what they lead. That I think is some ignorance, but a lot of it is wanting people to think they have what they don't have.
Yeah. And that seems to happen too when there's kind of an innovation that there's bandwagon jumping, right? Someone goes, oh man, I could make some money on that. This whatever kind of novel compound is kind of gaining popularity because there's some studies coming out that are supporting that. So people, get the dollar signs in their eyes. They're just like, ooh, I'm going to throw out a product next week and claim that it has these benefits based on studies that are legitimate, but not necessarily the dosing that has proven to be. And
I will say there are, I think 3 brands right now on Amazon that in the label they say they have sulforaphane, not on the marketing front side, but on the supplement facts, which is illegal. But if you ask for their certificate of analysis, COA, it's glucoraphanin.
Interesting.
It's just like, okay, we could do, should we have a side business where we sue people and make money?
Yeah, right. I mean, Amazon's a pretty sketchy place to get supplements in general anyway, I'll usually go and if I'm going to buy something on Amazon, which is, I don't know, creatine or whatever, just something basic, I'll put the label in ChatGPT and just be like, is this legit? And it'll read the SKUs and things like that. And it's pretty good at being able to determine if it's bootleg or the real thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, tell me about the green tea extract. Is this related to the ghrelin?
Yeah.
So I know even if you drink green tea, it has a little bit of an appetite suppression effect. And that's in, much lower concentrations than what you're working with.
Yeah, I want to highlight 2 more things with berberine real quick.
Okay.
So one is it inhibits something called gluconeogenesis. So your liver, when you have low glucose, your liver can actually take proteins and transform them directly into glucose. And so which is not what you want if you're trying to be in ketosis. The berberine inhibits that. And so the other facet is it increases brown fat production. So brown fat is what you're going for with the cold dips. You increase brown fat when you dip in water that's less than, I think, 52 degrees.
I must have a lot of that fat.
You probably do, actually. And so
I'm in that thing nonstop, dude.
So that fat is actually the opposite of adipose, white fat, in that it actually burns. It turns on metabolism. It burns fat. The other fat.
That could be contributing to my lack of appetite too.
Yeah.
Never thought about it.
Yeah.
All right, listeners, I'm going to ask you kind of a personal question here. Are you feeling irritable or anxious? Does your sleep suck lately? Well, those symptoms might not be psychological. They could actually be chemical. Along with muscle twitches, cramps, and bad digestion, they are classic signs of magnesium deficiency. And shockingly, 4 out of 5 Americans aren't getting enough of this crucial mineral. So we're missing a core building block of health, because magnesium plays a role in over 600 biochemical reactions. It affects energy, stress, muscle function, and obviously sleep. Now, even though I'm pretty healthy generally, I didn't realize how deficient I was until I started taking Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. I noticed right away that my sleep got deeper and I wasn't waking up groggy like I had when I was using different sleep supplements. And as an unexpected bonus, I also felt my daytime anxiety dial down quite a bit when I took one the next morning as well. So here's why it works. Most magnesium supplements on the market only contain 1 or 2 cheap forms your body can barely use. But Magnesium Breakthrough is different. It's the only full spectrum formula with all 7 forms in one dose. And that, my friends, is the difference between expensive pee and a real upgrade to your nervous system. So click on over to bioptimizers.com/Luke and use the code Luke10 to save 10% off your order. I'll tell you what, with a 365-day money-back guarantee, you owe it to your mind and your body to try Magnesium Breakthrough and feel the difference for yourself. Again, that's bioptimizers.com/Luke, and don't forget to use that code Luke.
So those are 2 important things. So berberines, we love berberine. Most berberine, actually, you'll read about, this study says this regular berberine, that's a fraction of our cost, decreases blood glucose. Well, that's in 30, probably more like 6 to 8 weeks. So it takes a long time, and whereas ours does it in hours. And so that's a big difference.
That's cool. Why is berberine yellow? Is it made of a flower or something? What is it? Like a shrub? What's the origin plant?
It's a flower.
Oh, okay.
A plant.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because it's super bright yellow.
It is. Yeah. So green tea extract, EGCG, is another part of our GLPerfect. And we have that in there specifically, and you hit the nail on the head, for ghrelin. It, again, with it being attached to our carrier molecule, is about 250 times more bioavailable than regular green tea. And it turns off ghrelin really effectively. And so when you may not want to take it, but when your wife takes it, you're just there, like there's zero hunger.
Really?
Yeah. And
maybe I should take it, but only late at night.
Actually,
because that's when I start craving sugar.
Yeah, true. Actually. And then the other facet of that.
It doesn't have caffeine in it though, does it?
No.
Okay.
No. So it's extracted. And so ghrelin is it's the hunger hormone. And so we wanted to have, you read about green tea extract, and it's typically in the studies, the EGCG provides about, 2 pounds of weight loss over a 4 to 6 week period. And so, but nobody really talks about the satiation effect. And so, but with ours, because it's so much more bioavailable, we haven't done a weight loss study. There's probably a bit more weight loss, but certainly you can feel like, then that's most of our testimonials about the product is, I'm not hungry. I don't want a snack. No need to snack. Don't need the midday snack. So that's different than a GLP-1 in that those people aren't hungry either, but if they eat, they can get sick and they just don't feel good. If somebody on GLPerfect eats, they're fine. They can eat.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And so that's I think a big differentiator. And again, like, why did we create GLPerfect? We wanted to have an option for people coming off. There are reasons people are on GLP-1s. Their doctors recommend it, and that's fine. Like, it's helping people, but there are a number of people who may not want to be on them or want to come off or need to come off. And this is a viable option.
You just read my mind. That's what I was going to ask you. Would this be a good kind of, is this the methadone of, the GLP-1 drugs,
But, it's not going to give this dramatic weight loss that a GLP-1 will. It will be slow and steady, wins the race.
Well, what if someone was in, a metabolic crisis, right? And under doctor supervision, I mean, they were like a legitimate, viable candidate for a GLP-1 and they shed a bunch of weight. They've made some lifestyle changes, but they don't want to be on that drug for whatever reason, be it financial or otherwise. Is it, possible that this would enable them to kind of, keep the momentum going, versus someone who's very obese and thinks that this is going to like give them the instantaneous results that a drug would?
I wouldn't necessarily put it as momentum, because the momentum from the GLP-1 can be fast. So this will be an option for them, at the very least, to have something that helps them from reverting, right?
Yeah. Because it's like if you've taken this drug and you've made zero lifestyle changes other than the fact that you just don't eat like you used to because you're not hungry, and you go back to a sedentary life eating what you used to eat, obviously you're just going to gain the weight back, right?
Yeah. So that's a good plug for exercise. Exercise naturally increases GLP-1s. It just works. So it does a lot of things with your metabolism. It's not just your burning calories. It helps with sleep. It helps with everything, and muscle building. And so cardiovascular. And so this GLPerfect, our supplement or the Ozempic drug, you don't want to look at them as silver bullets. You want to look at them as tools. You want to have a inclusive, healthy lifestyle with exercise and nutrition.
Is there anything else with the green tea extract that's important?
It's an antioxidant, so that's important. And it reduces inflammation, so that's important. NF-kappa B, not quite as much as like a curcumin, but it's one of the benefits in terms of, and those can be important with weight, as we discussed earlier, but mainly it's the ghrelin.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And then what about the third ingredient? What's that?
Alpha-lipoic acid. I talk about alpha-lipoic acid as the most amazing supplement that nobody talks about.
It's old school.
It is old school. Yeah. And I forget the name. If you look at the old literature of the 50s, 40s, it had a different name and they renamed it. It was like try something acid. So, before we go into the weight loss or weight issue, how it helps with weight, historically, I've talked about alpha-lipoic acid in terms of helping with liver enzymes. And so it's pretty amazing if you have an issue with your liver enzymes. Taking even one dose of alpha-lipoic acid does amazing things. John Gilday's sister had liver issues, and he made some alpha-lipoic acid slurry for her and saw sort of the movement of the needle. I've had friends who have taken it, seen some really significant improvements with alpha-lipoic acid and liver enzymes.
How would one know if they have issues with liver enzymes?
You'd have to get a physical and lab work.
Got it.
Yeah. And I just actually signed up for Function. If you're at a Function Labs, like they had a special like $350. I heard it on a Huberman podcast, but it's like you get your whole battery of labs
for $350.
On sale. It's like $400 normal.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a lot to some, but it's much less than you would pay normally.
Yes. And you don't have to go to the hospital. I don't think.
Nice.
I think that I'll see what how they do it.
Cool.
And then, lipoic acid, also, it's a cofactor in the Krebs cycle. So Krebs cycle, again, how do you take glucose, money in bank, and make it into the usable form of energy or cash money? And the ATP is a cofactor in that. And so if that's low, the alpha-lipoic acid is low, then that gets slowed down. And so having plenty of that cofactor can keep the energy production running. Unlike berberine, it's water soluble, so it has no bioavailable issues. But like berberine, it works with AMP kinase. We talked a little bit ago about the berberine going through the blood-brain barrier, and I'm not sure it does because alpha-lipoic acid does. So that's one of the distinctive factors. And what it does is it impacts the hypothalamus and leptin. And so with obesity, your hypothalamus can be not working properly. Therefore, your leptin production isn't working properly. Leptin, again, I feel satisfied after a meal hormone. And so when that's working properly, you're not storing fat. You're utilizing glucose properly. You're not feeling hungry. So the opposite of metabolic syndrome. When that's dysfunctioning, you feel hungry often and you're storing fat. And your glucose sinks aren't working glucose into the cells.
I wonder how much that has to do with people's issues around overeating and weight gain when they think it's this kind of hereditary or they have some sort of imbalance or something like that, right? I think, there's been a prevalent bit of misinformation around, people that just kind of accept, oh, this is how I am. It runs in the family. It's hereditary, whatever it is. I have a hormonal imbalance. I wonder how much of it is actually that.
Yeah.
Right?
It could be.
Where you can't ever feel satiated and so you overeat. I mean, outside of like any, emotional drivers.
Yeah.
But just physically not being able to feel like you've had enough to eat.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have to take our product. You can buy alpha-lipoic acid itself and test it. And so, I'll also take it with, we talked about this is a side note, NAC and glycine, the Glynac.
You sent me some. It's in a plastic bag. I was like, ooh, cutting edge. This isn't out yet. When I first saw it, I was like, I hope they labeled this because looks sketchy, but I trust it is what it is.
Yeah, it's Glynac and no filler. Again, before we started producing it, I was having to take like 35 capsules, and then with filler, and then without filler, it's 20. Still a lot, but it's a big difference. It's 15 capsules.
Yeah.
And so, but that's I've actually, because I take it with broccoli, I'll take 6 to 8 a day now, because I think the broccoli is a driver of glutathione. So NAC and glycine are the building blocks for glutathione. And if you have a driver in there, like that's pushing it, I don't think you need as much of the substrate.
Are there other benefits to taking Glynac other than endogenous glutathione production? Or is that kind of the main reason that people are into it?
That's the main reason. But if you add alpha-lipoic acid to that, it's like almost synergistic. So it'll like rev up that system and that even that much more. And so I like to take those together.
Cool.
And so blood pressure, we're at sort of the beginnings of some not normal blood pressure. And John was like, take alpha-lipoic acid before bed. And so, and this is with all blood pressure meds, you can take them in the morning, but they really don't work until it's in the evening that they work. And so that's where the deep sleep is important, because it's the repair time where your capillary beds are getting repaired in your body, especially kidneys. And if you're not into the deep sleep, that repair time diminishes. Anyway, alpha-lipoic acid, again, superstar supplement, old school, super cheap, but we have it in there specifically because how it works with the AMP kinase, blood glucose, and the leptin.
You're going to bring it back, dude.
We're bringing it back.
It was dying a slow death at the GNC at the mall. Back the 70s supplement stacks, But that makes perfect sense to put those together. I want to let people know, for the next week after this comes out, what have we got going here? I saw a promotion. I want to make sure to tell everyone. Okay, for the next week, you listeners and viewers get an exclusive 25% off all Mara Labs products when you go to maralabs.com/Luke and use the code. Guess what it is? Luke. And then after that, it looks like that code will still get you 15% off. And we'll put links to all of that long information at lukestorey.com/Mara2. I'm stoked, dude. I think that as I just see on social media, the side effects that are attributed to these GLP-1 drugs look to me pretty problematic. I don't know how much of the hype is true and how much is fear porn, but people send me stuff all the time and I'm like, that looks gnarly.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, if it was just the muscle loss, that doesn't seem like something that would be sustainable. And what you've done here is very cool because not only, is it going to enable people to start to manage their weight, but also I'm getting there's a lot of other benefits to these 3 ingredients, especially with your delivery system and the synergy between the 3 of them. So it's like, even if you didn't have like a weight problem, sounds like it would just be, something great to add to your regimen anyway. So I'm super stoked to share this with people. And that said, as you've alluded to, I mean, if someone's in a metabolic crisis and they need to lose weight fast with their doctor, I mean, I'm sure those drugs have their place, but that's, as I said, always my last resort.
Yeah.
For people that didn't hear your prior episode, and we will of course link to that in the show notes, give us a little rundown on some of the other things that you guys make, because I guess as we discovered, it's been a couple of years now. Time flies. I feel like it was 9 months ago, but I've been on your stuff on a regular basis now for this whole time. And once I learn about something and I'm like convinced that it's legit and really good for me, I just kind of start taking it. And then if I see that I'm getting results and I feel good about it, I keep doing it. But then in the interim, I forget why I was doing it.
Yeah.
So if someone came to me today and said, why do you take their curcumin, their Kirk Elite? I'd be like, I don't know. Like a couple of years ago, I talked to this guy, David, and it was compelling enough for me to add it to my, my regular protocol. But then their information kind of evaporates. So maybe for myself and anyone listening that's using your stuff or is curious about it, give us some more info about the other things.
Absolutely. So start with broccoli. If you're doing the GLPerfect, if you have some added fat around your belly or wherever that you think you're going to be burning, those fat stores actually store toxins as well. So you will actually be releasing toxins. We recommend with the GLPerfect to take broccoli. So if you're feeling like kind of yucky when you're when you're losing your fat, it's because it's the toxins. The broccoli is a fantastic detoxifier. It works in all 3 phases. It's great for brain health. It produces something called brain-derived nootropic factor, which is at the center of protecting existing neurons, but also creating new neurons. It turns on something called the antioxidant response system, which is basically over 300 different antioxidants, unlike a vitamin C, where it's one oxidant combines with one antioxidant combines with one prooxidant, and they cancel each other out. The sulforaphane in broccoli actually turns on the system that releases these genes, and it releases 300 different antioxidants over 72 hours. So it turns on and stays on.
Damn, you know what I just thought of? That's probably a really good internal EMF protector.
How so?
Well, if we're talking about oxidative stress and free radicals, right? I mean, that's the main. I mean, there's a number of issues with EMF, depending on if it's magnetic, radio, whatever. But I mean, the main thing is it causes free radical storm in the body. So I'm always thinking ahead, like, you can do things in your house to kind of shield and harmonize and all those things, but I'm always looking for ways to be able to help the body be more resilient, because the fact is, when you go out in the world, you can't control if there's a freaking cell tower next to you as you're at the red light. You know what I mean?
No.
So I don't know. I'm just saying, if it's activating all those, those onboard antioxidants, it's probably I would assume, good for that.
Yeah.
Just in terms of biological resilience.
Sure. Yeah. And it actually, people have a response to pain. So it does work with decreasing NF-kappa B. It turns on the NRF2 pathway. Both of those are sort of two sides of a coin of pain. So one is decreased, one is increased. And, a lot of people notice pain, their pain drops quickly, like within days. And so that's great. It's water soluble, so it doesn't have an issue getting through the gut barrier. So it's not attached to our carrier molecule. We just stabilize it. And again, a lot of supplements say they have stabilized sulforaphane or sulforaphane. They have the precursor molecule, which may or may not get transformed into sulforaphane in your gut. Again, we have, with all of these, we have a 100-day unconditional money back guarantee. And that's designed just so people won't feel the anxiety of trying it. We stand behind. Most people notice a difference.
That's pretty solid integrity-wise. Do you ever have people that take 29 of the 30 capsules and try to return it?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, they'll take all of them. It's.
I just think as a business owner, I'd be like, shit. What if there's like scammers out there and they actually like the product, but they're just trying to get it for free?
I mean, there are people like that, but I mean, they're few and far between.
Yeah,
and so most people
probably aren't going to go through the trouble of doing that.
Yeah. And, we stand by it and we want people to try it. And the idea is that they like it, they see the benefit. And so it's a win-win. They will be willing to pay to have that benefit. And it's like, absolutely, I want this. So if that's not the mindset, then it's fine. We'll give them the money back. And so that's on the first bottle, try it. And if you don't notice anything, we'll return the money. So that's broccoli. It helps with hair loss. I had a doctor.
Oh shit! I need to be mega dosing that.
Got DHT, the bad form of testosterone. It helps with, as men age, their urine stream becomes slower and slower. So I had a doctor, a friend of mine, Ken Brown, called me. He's like, this should be a urinary, like a prostate product, because I was stopped taking it and I thought I started peeing more slowly. And then all of a sudden I got a new shipment in and he was off for a couple months. And then he's like a 13-year-old again, So anyway, those are some of the benefits of broccoli. This one is Cursalite Pro. We have regular Cursalite, but I sent this to you because talked about the allergens in Austin, and really, so it's potently antihistamine, and so if we recommend 2 a day, but if you're in a histamine storm with mast cells, you want to take more. I say take 2 every couple hours until that storm passes, and you notice a difference, and then you can take a maintenance dose of 2 a day. It's also potently anti-senolytic. So senescent cells, being the zombie cells, all the cells are around those zombie cells are receiving the secretions of cytokines that kill them. And so it's pro-aging. And so the quercetin it kills those cells and shows them the door.
That's interesting. I didn't realize that. Realize that when those cells aren't useful anymore and they're on their way out, that they're also like shitting the bed as they do so. Just when I think, the physical health isn't challenging enough, it's like, oh God, that thing happens too.
I will say with broccoli, not all cells are senescent. But old cells need to be shown the door too. So autophagy is anti-aging. You want old cells to be shown the door, die, and be recycled. And so it promotes autophagy. Same with mitochondria. Old mitochondria need to die and then be recycled into new. And broccoli, it helps with mitophagy. It has 5 distinct mechanisms that are anti-aging.
That's so epic.
Yeah. So that's
and the what's it called? How do you say it?
Sulforaphane.
Sulforaphane. That's a hard ass word. Is that only found in nature in broccoli?
Correct. Yeah. So basically,
that's such a trip.
It was discovered in 1992 up at Johns Hopkins, but they early on saw that it was not stable. So you can make it, by masticating broccoli sprouts or seeds or mature broccoli. But if you try to store it, it degrades within hours.
Oh, is it more abundant in broccoli sprouts than full flowered broccoli?
Correct. About 50 to 100 times more.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So one of our capsules of broccoli is the equivalent of 2.5 pounds of mature broccoli. The amount of the chemical.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. Where do you guys get all this broccoli?
Well, we extract it from the seed.
Oh, from the seed.
Yeah. So
I'm picturing like a massive, acres of hydroponic broccoli. You get it from the seed. That's cool. I was on a sprout kick recently. I think they're called the Sprout Company. Make a really cool little jar. It's like the easiest way I've ever found to make sprouts. And even though I don't like vegetables, I really love sprouts, like radish sprouts and broccoli sprouts. I just it was a little, I'm going to do it again, but it was a little high maintenance. It's like you got to rinse, even though they did it really well. No shade to them. I'm just not a big kitchen guy, but I do think that, eating enzymatic rich living foods like that is probably a really good idea.
Well, that solves.
Yeah. But if you just give me a pill, I'd rather do that.
That solves your vegetable crisis. If you just do sprouts, those are superfoods.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can tell when you eat sprouts, right? There's something about them. They just have a certain vitality, a certain energy to them that just feels good. Your body's going, yes, do more of that.
Yeah. And so microgreens are close cousins. So if 3 days, they're 7 days. And those you can buy, you don't even have to grow them. You can buy them at Whole Foods, which we grow, but we also buy. So
nice.
So yeah, and then the curcumin, curculite. So basically, every curcumin product on the market you'll see is the best. At least that's what they say. Everyone is like, we have the best curcumin, we have the best curcumin, we have the best curcumin. So my friend calls it the curcumin wars. And so basically, how do you know who's the best? So there's a study that came out a number of years ago now that looked at all the bioavailable curcumin. So basically, regular curcumin, the issue is curcumin is not bioavailable. Regular curcumin is less than 1% bioavailable. But you read all these studies. I mean, curcumin does so many different things, but those are typically cell studies. So it's put directly onto the cells, so it doesn't have to get through the gut barrier. And so,
that's sneaky.
It is,
and this is derived from turmeric, right?
It is the turmeric root, similar to ginger.
Yeah. I'm glad you say it correctly. It's one of my neurotic pet peeves when people call it turmeric. And I bet you there's like thousands of people listening that call it turmeric, and they don't put the R. It's turmeric or turmeric. There's an R in there, people. Come on.
So the curcumin, similar to sulforaphane, which is the good molecule in broccoli, the curcumin is the good molecule, and to make sure I say it properly now, turmeric.
Yeah, you did it. I'm happy as long as we get the R in there, I'm satisfied.
And so it's about 5%. It's extracted. So in this study, looking at the bioavailable forms, there's Mariva, there's Novasol, Cur 95, curcumin with bioprene. Novasol was the highest bioavailable. And so what Novasol is, though, it is 97% detergent. So polysorbate 60, 3% curcumin. So what it does is it aggravates your gut lining. And so the curcumin gets through. I've
heard this with the black pepper extract.
Is the same, similar issue. And so with both of them, you take curcumin because you want curcumin to get to your cells to turn off NF-kappa B, which is the holy grail of inflammation. So it's the pathway that the pharmaceutical companies are going after to decrease inflammation. And curcumin is the best natural molecule at downregulating the NF-kappa B pathway, decreasing inflammation. So again, similar to the broccoli, you can take our form of curcumin, and within 24 hours, your pro-inflammatory markers are decreased about 30%. So that's enough. You can feel the difference. It's probably 33, 34%.
That's impressive.
And so, I mean, that's the whole point of attaching it to the carrier molecule is we want to have the most bioavailable forms of these molecules outside of straight IVs. And so this is pushing the envelope. Novasol is highest bioavailability, but it increases inflammation. doesn't drop inflammation.
Huh. That's not good.
Similar with the bioperine forms. So you just want to be careful. And so when Novasol is slightly bioavailable than ours, but instead of, ours is the second most bioavailable, but it's the most bioavailable with also dropping inflammation, which is what you want, right? It's the whole reason you're taking the curcumin.
Would there be any benefit to eating a lot of curry, or eating Indian, or like having just a very turmeric rich diet? I mean, there's probably reasons why, some of our ancient peoples ate a lot of that root.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I would be microbiome specific. It's not going to get through the gut barrier, but I actually am a very big fan of non-bioavailable curcumin for that reason, is that it actually is great. First of all, 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And because it's sort of the forward-facing part of, where your food comes from, and so much food is has toxins rather in it, and that promotes inflammation, having curcumin in your gut that just stays, kind of goes through slowly is great, because those cells at the lining are seeing it and are receiving the benefit. So yeah, I'm a big fan, cool. But it also modulates the gut microbiome. And so it's good gut bacteria. Awesome. Similar to the berberine, which I didn't mention is huge benefit of berberine is modulating the gut microbiome in a positive way. So what else do we have here?
This one appears to be new. Resveratrol Elite. I don't think I've seen this one.
Resveratrol Elite has resveratrol. Again, low bioavailability. It's resveratrol is responsible for what's called the French paradox. So basically, French people eat lots of fatty foods, drink lots of wine, but have low cardiovascular disease. And it's shown that there's more to it than that now.
Like living in the Mediterranean, being in the sun and being grounded all the time.
Being in community, Yeah, there's a lot more to it. But
walking up and down hills on little cobblestone streets.
Riding bikes in the street, yeah. Exercise. There's a saying that I didn't come up with, but I use it unashamedly. It's that exercise is king, nutrition is queen. If you have both of them, you have a kingdom.
Nice. I like that. I need to work on one of them. This, I think the resveratrol, this is the word that I have a hard time pronouncing, and that sulforaphane one. So I'll give people a pass on the turmeric. I remember years ago when this kind of came into vogue, people were, using it as a means by which to justify drinking a lot of red wine.
Yeah. So it's not bioavailable. So
So drinking red wine is not going to give you a therapeutic. Okay.
It's not. So the issue with resveratrol is there's the first pass metabolism. So basically 95% of these molecules get filtered out by the liver in the first pass. And so, and resveratrol gets upregulated into cells immediately. So it's next to impossible. You can't do a traditional blood plasma concentration study because of that. And so with ours, it gets through the gut barrier. So that's the first issue. And then because of the carrier molecule, it lasts a bit longer after the first pass. So what does resveratrol do? It's good for longevity is the main one. It turns on the sirtuin pathways, which are good for longevity, SIRT1 specifically. And David Sinclair was the guy who popularized resveratrol. A lot of biohackers are anti-resveratrol because he sold it to his company to a pharmaceutical company who tried to create a biologic similar to what Ozempic did with semaglutide, but they wanted to do a different type of molecule that didn't work, and so the company folded, and everyone's like, resveratrol doesn't work, but we have shown in our lab that it's good. It works,
and it's derived from grapes.
It can be derived from grape skins. Ours is derived from the Japanese knotwood.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And with Mara Labs, it seems to me that all of the compounds you use are plant-derived or nature-based. Do you have any synthetics?
No.
Huh. Interesting. No. I'm not against synthetics, but my preference would be something that at some point existed in nature and not just in a lab.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like peptides can be considered synthetic, even though they make a lot of sense naturally.
Yeah. Well, I was actually writing a little bit about psychedelics yesterday and kind of approaching this, preference that's sometimes a bit elitist. People in that space, vilifying anything synthetic like LSD or MDMA or something and saying, it has to be, ayahuasca or mushrooms or synthetic, DMT versus the DMT that'd be found in ayahuasca, for example. And I was thinking about it. It's like, if you believe there is a creator, some sort of God that made all of this, it's like, well, okay, so you will only take that, organic product, whatever it is, psychedelic or not. But if you believe that there's something that created everything, then it would have also created humans, and humans become chemists and go into a lab and make something. So it's like if you trace everything back, I mean, it's all created by nature because humans are nature. It's just, for me, it's a matter of like, does it work or not? And does it have any side effects that, you could avoid if you found it in a natural form?
Yeah, I like to think about it because I do believe there's God is creator and that we are co-creators under him.
Yeah. It's a great way to look at it. Well, man, thanks for coming back, dude. Thanks for continuing the innovation. And as I said, I'm really excited about this latest one because I think it's a really important niche to fill for people. And I'm excited. Just actually, even though I'm not trying to lose weight, I am interested in not eating so much late at night and seeing if I can shift the window of hunger to a different time in the day. And, I'm stoked to get feedback from people too. So if any of you guys listening try the GLPerfect and are getting results, like definitely let me know because I'm always curious what happens, in the aftermath of these conversations. Oftentimes I don't really know what results people are having or what their experience is unless I happen to run into them out in the real world and they're like, hey, I heard this episode on this or that and I started applying that information and I've had X, Y, and Z, changes.
Yeah. And real quick, 25% off mara-labs.com/Luke and 25% off over the next week as
epic.
Yeah. So try it. We have 100% money back guarantee. So if it doesn't work, just let us know. We'll give you your money back.
And thanks for doing that too. I think that's a really good business model that a lot of people in this space could follow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, I don't know, if I'm going to spend money on something, even if I know I'm probably not going to return it, it feels good knowing I could. If I'm spending $50 on something, it's like a waste, Actually, that just happened. I ordered some plants from Home Depot. They're like $300. And I didn't shop around. I was like, Home Depot, they deliver whatever. And then I realized it had a 5 in the title. So I thought I was getting 5 of them for like $80. And then I looked more closely today. I read some of the Q&A and it's like, no, it's pot size number 5, not 5 gallons, but they have a arbitrary number system 1 through 5. And I was like, I'm not spending $80 on one of these little scrawny plants. So, I went to see if I could return it, and you can. So once they arrive, I can drive them down to Home Depot and get my money back, So I don't know. I think that's a good policy in general for all business. If somebody's selling a product, it'd be harder to do with a service-based business. But with a product, it's like, dude, if you don't like it, you should have a window of time where you can get your money back.
Yeah.
That's just like how it should be. It's the most ethical way to sell things.
Yeah. We want it to be a win-win.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But well, thank you so much for having me.
Man.
It's great to be back and love our conversations.
Yeah, me too, man.